Hi folks, we're back cutting through the matrix. Actually, there's a caller from the UK being holder on the line there, Daniel. I'll talk to Daniel now if he's there. Hello?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can, yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask two questions, please. The first one was about music. Now, I listen to classical music a lot, and it's been around for hundreds of years, as you know. I'm just wondering, were there any famous composers who were influential Masons or involved in, in the higher echelons of society?
Oh, definitely. In fact, I think Beethoven became one as well. There's also the Magic Flute that was written. That's about Masonry. If you ever go to see it, if you watch it, you'll see all the Masonic symbols in the background, and even the notes and the various way they put it on the music sheet too. It's actually a kind of Masonic coding. So this is old stuff though. And at that period too, when the classical age came in, it was the in thing to become a Mason, Freemason, because revolution was the talk of the era. A lot of the operas that first came out too started off in Italy, and they were actually promoting rebellion inside the operas. Some of them were banned at the time because of it, or banned in other countries when they went to play, because they were promoting revolution through the opera, and it was all Masonic led. It hasn't stopped, mind you. I remember they had a kind of a strange thing, musical put on in Canada, and it was a few years ago, in fact, and it was almost like a Celtic type theme they had in it, where you saw these people dancing, and they had pyramids behind them, and somebody who was not Celtic wrote the music score for it again too. But again, it was very highly Masonic, and it also was about the superior types that should live through from age to age. That's really what it was about. I think it was Dance of Fire or something they called it. But anyway, so music's always been used by Freemasonry. All the arts have been used by Freemasonry, including the painters as well, going back an awful long time. But definitely, you'll find that with it was almost, I think it's almost mandatory to become one, to get up the ranks and have your work noticed in those particular time periods. And nothing has changed today, by the way. You don't have to be a Mason to be in a group. The guys who manage you are all Masons, and that's good enough. You just take orders from them.
Yeah. Well, on the same theme of art and symbolism and that sort of thing, I was looking, after listening to one of your shows, I was looking to the CFR website, and on one of the pages there was a picture of like a meeting table on the Programme on International Institutions and Global Governance. And if you look at the picture, it's because you talk about inner and outer circles, and you said that Quigley does as well.
Yeah.
And if you look at this picture on the website, it's a circular table with a picture of the globe in the middle, and people sat around it. And then there's like a space, and then there's a secondary outer ring of people on desks sat around it. So you've got inner circle and outer circle. And when I saw that, the first thing that sprung into mind was the GCHQ building at Cheltenham. You know, the donut?
Yes.
It looks exactly the same, because it's got a ring, and then there's a secondary outer ring of buildings.
Yes.
And I thought, it's the same as Stonehenge, and even the UN emblem is like a series of rings. Is there anything in all this?
Oh, there is definitely. Count all the sections or segments that make up the UN logo. They've got it in a graph system. Count them up and look at the number you've got.
Right.
And remember too, it's surrounded again by the oak leaves for victory. Well, the UN was set up by the Royal Institute of International Affairs, paid for and funded and by, again, our tax money via the Milner Organization, to bring in world governments. And that means the oak leaf is to conquer the world. It's not the olive branch. It's to conquer the world. And we should really take that seriously. That's the purpose of it, yeah.
But, I mean, this inner and outer circle issue, is that something significant?
Yes, if you go through the book, for the historian, from the historian for the Council on Foreign Relations, which is the Royal Institute for International Affairs, just the American branch. If you go into the Carl Quigley's The Anglo-American Establishment and Tragedy and Hope, he discusses how this system was set up by Milner and of course the Rhodes group that joined them, and how they had their outer circle. He called it the outer circle, where they knew so much up to a certain degree, but then there was the inner circle that only met in All Souls College. Even today, they're lifers, and they're given access to All Souls College as lifers, and they still meet there, regardless of their age, to really go forward with the big plan. So to get into the inner circle is the highest honor they can have, to get into the higher reasons for what they've been doing so far. Yeah.
And is that why they built these buildings like GCHQ in this circle with outer rings around it?
Yes, it's also highly Masonic too. It's ancient, as you say, because in Freemasonry, you know that you have the cord or the rope around your neck, and that signifies your toe rope. It's also toe the line and all that. That all comes from Freemasonry, but it signifies how that you, from a point in a circle, can go around in a circle, and for the outer circumference, that's the only length that you can go to. But hold on, and we'll go into that when I come back from this break.
You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, because you can handle the truth.
Hi folks, we're back, cutting through the matrix, talking to Daniel from the UK, and I was talking about the Masons and their circles and so on, and even, as I say, the tie, or that's why you get a necktie from as well. That's a Masonic symbol. That's why it's called a tie. It ties you to that spot. You're tied and bound to the lodge, basically. And that's what Albert Pike referred to as even those Masons who do not know they are. That's those people in the system, working for the system, that are doing all the things that the higher Masons would want you to do without initiation. But your toe rope really signifies the length of your understanding. And of course, the wider the circle, it can be you can subscribe across in a circle with that toe rope, the more your understanding. But then you have interlacing circles as well, and that was the different associations and higher lodges that you could possibly get into if you had the right stuff. But it's fascinating to realize how much Masonry is really inside the language of each country, and definitely in the English language. So many of the sayings that they have are even out of the Masonic initiations. So it's alive and well. It's always been alive and well, but it's a degreed system. I should also mention too that at one time, when the Masons were coming out, when the classical era was in, that's when they came out with the forms of necktie. And the necktie at one time used to be tied in a bow. That meant you reached the Grand Master stage, because at that time you bowed to the Grand Master. So bow and bow were the same things. And then the two bits came down from that time when you tied it. You had two pieces coming down, would be at generally a 45 or even sometimes 60-degree angle. You'll see that on solicitors in England, the people who work in the courts in England. So this is all purely Freemasonic. And as I say, that's the thing to do with your circles. Now, it's also mentioned with the higher circles in the Milner Royal Institute of International Affairs groups. They talk about interweaving circles, and once you, even before you get up the top of acceptance into, as I say, All Souls College, you have to interact with other circles, higher levels of understanding. So your toe rope, you might say, is becoming longer and longer if you've got the right stuff. All these things interconnect, and then they have the round table societies as well, where they hammer out all the problems for the think tanks. How can they implement policies across the world? What media should they use to get it across to the general public and get the public to accept it? So this is all a very ancient art, of course, of true governance, economic, military, social, academic, and so on, all the way right down the board. Yeah.
It goes back how long, you think?
Well, Freemasonry definitely pre-existed the 1700s when they claimed it came into being as Freemasonry.
Can I just ask something? Because I've been trying to read up about the Sumerians and Babylon and this, and it's not a coincidence that the MI6 building is modelled on the ziggurat, is it?
No, it's not a coincidence at all. Absolutely, this is an amazing thing. But even when the Rosicrucians broke out in the 1500s and the 1600s, they really were this same organization coming out with yet another name before they gave it the name Freemasonry. It was the Rosicrucians, because there were more people at that time still Christian in Europe, for instance, and so they had to have a kind of Christian-y sound, the Rosy Cross. But the Rosy Cross was also used as a fiery cross. We mustn't forget that too. It could either be a pleasant thing to look at, or it could be something you could be burned upon. And everything's got double meanings within their symbols, because it's based again on opposites in Kabala and so on. Very ancient. And even if you go into Budge's, he was the main translator for the Egyptian museum, Sir Wallace Budge. He talks about how he had found, by perusing so much ancient Egyptian stuff and for translation, that he came to the conclusion that definitely Kabbalah, in its early form, not the 15th century later form, because they really finished it in the 15th century, but early Kabbalah was actually in existence in ancient Egypt, maybe about 500, 600 BC.
So I was going to ask you, do you think that